Welcome to the Reading Minute. Small moments, big thinking. Welcome, students. When you finish today's lesson, you should have strengthened your ability to tell the difference between evidence and assumptions and be able to use evidence to explain what you think happened in a text. Here is your listening task. Listen carefully to this scenario and identify the theme. Before we move on, we need to address an issue with today's group project, Ms. Carter said. One group has reported that not all assigned tasks were completed, she continued. We think Alex didn't do their part, one student said. Everyone agrees, another student added. Alex didn't help. I want to be very clear, Ms. Carter said. I am not asking for opinions. I am not asking for agreement, she said. And I am not asking for a group consensus, Ms. Carter continued. I am asking for evidence. But we all know it's true, a student responded. Knowing something and proving something are not the same, Ms. Carter said. So let's reset, she added. What evidence shows that Alex did not complete the assigned task? Ms. Carter asked. Alex didn't talk much during our meetings, one student said. That is an observation, not evidence of incomplete work, Ms. Carter replied. What else do you have? She asked. Alex's name isn't on the final slides, another student said. That is closer, Ms. Carter said. Do you have documentation showing what Alex was responsible for? We wrote down tasks on a planning sheet, a student answered. Please refer to it, Ms. Carter said. According to this plan, Alex was responsible for the research notes, Ms. Carter said. Do you have the research notes? She asked. No, we don't, a student admitted. Do you have drafts, shared documents, or messages showing whether the task was completed? Ms. Carter asked. No, another student said. Right now, you have beliefs and assumptions, Ms. Carter said, but you do not have strong evidence. So what happens now? A student asked. We pause judgment, Ms. Carter replied. Alex will have an opportunity to show evidence of his work, she said. If evidence exists, it will be considered, Ms. Carter continued. If it does not, that will also be considered. But decisions will be made based on proof, not opinions, she concluded. This is how fairness works, Ms. Carter said. Evidence first. Conclusions second. Thanks for listening, students. Now that the scenario is completed, determine the theme and share out your responses. When finished, prepare to apply how evidence works in reading comprehension. Evidence matters. For your warm-up activity, choose one question to respond to. Remember to develop complete sentences, clearly state your idea, explain your reasoning, and include evidence or examples even if proof is limited. Here are the two questions. Choose one. When finished, prepare to share out your responses.
Take a moment to review today's activity, skill focus, and text. Review today's thinking skill. Let's take a moment and make a global connection to our thinking expectations for today.
Let's slow down and look closely at how these ideas are different. Prediction is about what might happen in the future. For example, schools may stop using paper assignments someday. An assumption is something we believe without proof. Saying that paper assignments are always less reliable than digital ones is an assumption because it sounds reasonable, but it is not proven. Now let's look at evidence-based reasoning. Evidence-based reasoning means using facts or details to explain why a conclusion makes sense. In this case, we know that our school requires printed assignments and does not accept digital submissions. That is a fact. Because the school requires printed assignments, any student who completed the work digitally would still be considered missing the assignment. This shows evidence-based reasoning. Conclusion is supported by clear evidence, not a guess or a belief.
What if the world became a cashless society? There are ongoing discussions about developing a cashless society, where physical money is no longer used and all transactions are digital. Share your answers for the following questions, but first, let's label the questions below as a prediction, assumption, or evidence-based reasoning. 1. Is this decision mostly negative or positive? 2. How might this change affect everyday life? 3. What information would you need before deciding if this system is fair or effective? Next, we'll move on to why these thought skills matter.
When systems change, information is often incomplete. Not every detail is explained, and not every answer is given right away. The same thing happens when we read. Authors do not always tell us everything directly. Some information is left out on purpose, and readers are expected to think carefully about what is missing. When readers notice gaps in a text, they often begin to make predictions. They guess what might happen next or what a character might be thinking. Predictions can be helpful, but only when they are based on the text. The problem is that assumptions can begin to sound like facts. A reader may believe something is true simply because it feels logical, not because the text actually proves it. Strong readers slow down. They separate what the text clearly states from what they are predicting. They return to the text and look for evidence that supports their ideas. Before drawing conclusions, strong readers ask an important question. What do I know for sure from the text? What can I predict, and what evidence supports my thinking? Our reading skill focus for today is cite strong and thorough evidence to support what a text says and implies. Let's use the image for practice. Analyze the details in the image. Is the dog lost or found? Support your claim.
Before we get into our reading passage and questions, let's review a test-taking tip. Analyze the questions first. Ask yourself, what kind of thinking is required? Which questions focus on evidence? Annotate by taking note of weak answers and by also identifying answers that best fit the question. Doing so helps you to use the process of elimination by beginning to think through answers that do not fit. Let's give it a try. The title of the passage is The Assignment No One Turned In. Question is, why is Ms. Delaney surprised at the beginning of the passage? Take a look at the answer choices and attempt to make some determinations. Remember, you are analyzing the answer choices for the one that might best answer the question. You are eliminating answers that do not appear to answer the question. Most importantly, you are not making any final decisions until you've read the passage. Analyzing the questions and answers first is a test-taking tip to help you know what to look for as you read. Here are some points to ponder as you analyze the answer choices. Who is most likely Ms. Delaney? Is this question a prediction, assumption, or factually based? Which answer choices do not seem to directly relate to the title of the passage? Which answer likely has potential to be correct? You have the option to continue to analyze the remaining passage questions, or you can begin reading the passage. Follow your teacher's instructions regarding this test-taking strategy. Before we begin reading, as a reminder, follow your teacher's instructions regarding reading and analyzing the questions first and completing any annotation of the text as you read. I will stop along the way and ask questions that you may need to think about before moving on to the remainder of the text. Let's begin. Paragraph 1. By the time third period began, the stack of essays that should have been on Ms. Delaney's desk wasn't there. Not half empty. Not thin. Completely empty. She stood at the front of the room, flipping through her gradebook as if the assignments might somehow appear between the pages. Paragraph 1. Questions to ponder. Third period is often the middle of the school day. What is third period like at your school and in your classes? What assumptions and predictions can you make about student and teacher behaviors and attitudes during this part of the day? Let's read paragraph 2. The students noticed immediately. Chairs shifted. Someone coughed. A few students avoided looking up, while others watched Ms. Delaney with a mix of curiosity and concern. This was unusual. Ms. Delaney was known for her precision. Deadlines mattered. Instructions were clear. Excuses rarely worked. Paragraph 2. Question to ponder. What is one word to describe the mood of paragraph 2? Paragraph 3. I'm going to give everyone a moment, she said finally, her voice calm but firm. Check your folders. Check your backpacks. Paragraph 3. Project task. Recreate the character map on the next page. Follow your teacher's instructions for completion. Jordan felt his stomach tighten. He had written the essay. He remembered finishing it late Sunday night, saving it, rereading it once more. He remembered thinking it wasn't his best work, but it was done. He was sure of that. He opened his backpack slowly, pushing aside a crumpled hoodie and a binder that barely closed anymore. No essay. He checked the front pocket, then the side pocket. His hands moved faster, his thoughts louder. Around him, others were doing the same. Papers rustled. Zippers opened and closed. A few students whispered questions to one another. Someone laughed nervously. I turned mine in online, a student near the window said. Ms. Delaney looked up. This assignment was not digital, she replied. It was printed. Hard copy only. The room went quiet again. Question: how does the author create a distinction between Jordan and the student by the window? Jordan replayed the instructions in his mind. Printed. Stapled. Name in the top right corner. He remembered stapling it. He remembered setting it by the door so he wouldn't forget it. Had he actually picked it up? Ms. Delaney walked between the desks, her shoes clicking softly against the floor. She stopped near the back of the room and looked at the clock. No one, she asked. Not one submission? A few students shook their heads. Others stared down at their desks. This assignment was worth a significant portion of your grade, she continued. I find it difficult to believe that every single student forgot. The word forgot landed heavily in the room. Jordan felt heat rise in his face. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words stayed stuck. What could he say? That he thought he had turned it in? That he was sure he had done the work? Ms. Delaney returned to her desk and folded her arms. We will discuss this tomorrow, she said. Until then, I suggest you think carefully about what happened. The bell rang louder than usual. In the hallway, students immediately began talking. Some insisted the assignment had never been clear. Others blamed the printer. A few claimed Ms. Delaney had changed the due date. Jordan said nothing. He walked to his locker, opened it, and stared inside as if the essay might be waiting there. It wasn't. Questions to ponder. What happens when direct answers are not available, and how do people in the story respond to that uncertainty? How can assumptions create additional problems in the story, and when might assumptions actually be helpful? Based on the text, what makes Jordan's assumptions and behaviors more reliable than those of other students? Since there is no solid evidence in the text explaining what happened to the essays, what should students rely on to support Ms. Delaney in resolving the situation? That night, Jordan searched his room. He checked under his desk, between notebooks, even in the recycling bin. He found old quizzes, half-finished homework, and notes he had forgotten about, but not the essay. He opened his laptop. The file was there. The date confirmed it had been completed on time. Jordan stared at the screen, unsettled. The work existed. The effort was real. But somehow the proof was gone. And in school, effort without evidence didn't count. The next few slides contain questions related to the mini passage. Make sure you justify why you chose your answer for each question. You will do so by stating the evidence used from the text that guided you to that answer. If you are unable to state the evidence from the text that guided you to your answer, state why each wrong answer is incorrect. Students, follow your teacher's instructions in answering and grading the questions. You may exit the lesson by reviewing the exit reflection slide. Teachers, you may review the standards found within this lesson on the last slide. If you have questions about the answers to any of the questions within this lesson or need support, visit thereadingminute.com. Thank you for joining the Reading Minute.